Welcome back. In this video, we're all moving together regardless of our operating system, and that's the way we're going to move on throughout the rest of the course. There is no more OS-specific videos. In this one, you're going to learn about the terminal. The terminal is a program on your machine, and it allows you to type commands and issue those commands to the computer. These commands can do all sorts of things. We're going to be using the terminal in the beginning of this course to issue commands to execute the JavaScript files we write. So if we write a JavaScript file that takes two numbers and adds them together, we can issue the command to execute that file and see the result. So that's why this is important. This is how we're actually going to be able to execute the code we run. Let's go ahead and start by cracking this open. Now, if you're already familiar with the terminal, if you're used to using commands like cd to change directories, ls and pwd, you can go ahead and skip this one. There's no new information for you. You can move right over to the next one where we start creating and running our first JavaScript file. If you're not familiar with those commands or you just want a quick refresher, do go ahead and continue on with this one as the information is going to be pretty important. We're going to be using the terminal a lot throughout the entire course. Let's go ahead and crack this open. On a Mac, we're looking for the terminal. On Windows, you're going to use Commander installed in the last video. And if you're on Linux, you're going to use the terminal, the command line, or the command prompt, depending on your distribution. Regardless of what it's called, in the end of the day, it's all the same thing. It is a place to type out commands. We then run the command and we view the output. So let's go ahead and kick things off by issuing our very first command. This one is going to print the version of Node installed on our computers. And that's going to allow us to confirm it was actually installed successfully. So let's go ahead and run this. It is node space -v. This is going to run Node and ask for the version that it's using. Now, how do we run a command once we type it out? Well, we just hit enter. So we hit enter. It issues the command to the computer. The computer does some sort of work depending on what the command does, and then we get an output. Right here, what are we getting? We're getting version 9.3.0, which is indeed correct for me. Your version might look slightly different. As long as the first number is an 8 or greater, you are good to go. So this is just one command we can issue from the command line. Now, your command might have failed if Node didn't install correctly. I can simulate that by just running this command with a typo. Instead of running Node, I'm going to run Node with two E's. I then use space -v like I did above. This command is going to fail, and we're getting some output, command not found. So if you're seeing something like command not found for the correct command without the typo, that means that Node wasn't successfully installed on your machine, and you're going to want to fix that before moving forward. You can open up a new question in the Q&A, and I'll help you get unstuck. If you are seeing Node's version though, we are ready to continue on and learn about another command. This one is super easy. It's called clear. All clear does is it clears the output shown on the screen. So if we run a bunch of commands and we have a whole bunch of output, we might want to get back to a nice clean slate. If I type clear and hit enter, what happens? We have a new command prompt showing up above, and none of the previous commands or their output are visible. Now we can issue other commands. And what I want to talk about is how the commands are actually executed. Every command we run from the terminal runs from a specific directory on our machine. So to visualize this, what we're going to do is crack open the Finder or the File Explorer. In the Finder, I'm always looking at a specific directory. In this case, it's the desktop. In this case, it's my user folder. In this case, it's my downloads directory. So we're always looking at the contents of a specific directory. Well, this is kind of similar in the terminal. In the terminal, the commands we run are always running from a specific directory. And if we don't pick one, it uses our user directory by default. And we can prove this. We can run pwd, which stands for print working directory, and the working directory is just the directory you're currently issuing commands from. We'll talk about how we can switch directories in a little bit. Right here though, if we run pwd, what do we get? We get /users/Andrew. So right here, that directory lines up with this folder. We're viewing the contents of the folder in the Finder. We're able to execute commands from the directory over here in the terminal. Now let's say we do want to execute commands from a different folder. In the Finder, if I wanted to view the contents of a different folder, I would just click the folder, like desktop. I can switch to see what's in there. I can click a different folder to see what's in there. The same thing is true with the terminal. We can use a command to switch the directory we're currently executing commands from. So let's go ahead and switch from the user directory, which I'm currently in over here, to the desktop folder. How do we do that? We use the cd command. CD is short for change directory, and it allows us to switch the folder we're executing commands from. And this is important because when we run our scripts, we're going to have to issue the command from the location where those scripts are stored. We'll talk about that in the next video when we actually set up a folder to store all of the files you're going to be writing in this class. Right here, though, we can switch to the desktop by using cd space followed by the folder we want to switch into. Right here, desktop. Now, if I run that command, what do we get? Well, we get no new output, but if we run pwd again, we can see the working directory has changed. I see users Andrew where I was before, and then desktop. Now we can also go up a directory. So let's say I want to go back to the user folder. To do that, I use cd space ... That goes from the current directory up to the parent directory, which would be switching from desktop back to Andrew. I run cd ... I then run pwd, and what do I get right here? I'm right back where I started from. I'm executing commands once again from the user folder. The last command I want to talk about is ls. ls lists out the contents of the current working directory, so it's similar to how we can see the contents of a folder in the Finder. If I run ls, we can see all of the stuff inside of that folder. Right here, I'm seeing all of the contents of the Andrew directory, which is exactly what I'm seeing over here. I could switch directories to view the contents of a different folder. I could use cd desktop to go back to the desktop. I could use ls, and what do I get? I get the one thing on my desktop, which is a directory called old. So throughout the course, we're going to be using clear to clear the terminal output. We're going to be using pwd to figure out where we're executing commands from. We're going to be using cd to change the location we're executing commands from, and sometimes we'll be using ls to figure out what's inside of the current folder. This is a good time to remind you that there is a PDF companion for this course. It contains information for each and every lecture where we learn something new. For this lecture, it actually lists out all of the commands we just talked about. It tells you exactly what they do and how you can use them. So if you ever forget exactly how things work down the line, you don't have to watch a full video to find the right part. You can usually just refer to that PDF, get the information you need quickly, and then get back to doing whatever you were doing. That's where we're going to stop for this one. We know the very basics of the terminal, but it might not be clear why these are important. We're going to figure out why they're important in the very next video where we create and run our very first JavaScript script. I am really excited to get to that. Let's go ahead and jump right into it.